Every day I'm hustling, 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 hustling. Every day I'm hustling, 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 every day I'm hustling.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Health and Hustle podcast. This is episode number 9, so 1 week closer to getting in double digits. As always, this is brought to you by Sports Mediscussion, which reminds you to heal by moving. And with that, let's check in with my co-host, Corey. What's going on, dude?
Not much, Todd. How you doing?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Just got off work. I'm ready to get this going.
Let's do it.
All right, man. Hot seat question. I'll let you go first, I think.
Hot seat question. All right. When are you moving to Columbus?
Ooh. I hope Emily's not listening to this.
It's got real hot.
Yeah. So
right out of the gate, 10 seconds in, Todd's done.
I'm already stuttering. All right. So a second background on this. Me and Emily have been going back and forth for a little while on when we're going to move to Columbus, but because that's kind of the best situation for me going forward, and I've kind of articulated to her for her and our future family. But I would like to move there very soon. I think she doesn't want to move, until about a year from now. So we're still trying to kind of polish that a little bit, But it's kind of up in the air right now based on a job I applied for and things and such. So, she's doing a lot of great things back home too in Akron, where we're both from. So, we're trying to find a compromising point. So it's kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah, no, we just love giving you shit, and we love giving Emily a hard time about it. Just as long as she knows, whenever she does make the move, I got a Zucchini spiralizer here for her, waiting on her.
She was pumped about that. We were texting about that earlier. So,
dude, the thing is so ridiculously easy to use.
It looks awesome.
I don't use it nearly enough just because I'm a guy and I'm lazy. But whenever I can get Jess to use it, we use it.
That's sweet. Yeah, I can't buy a Jess, so I'm just gonna keep Emily.
She got a kick out of that.
Your caption was funny. All right, so my hot seat question for you is A. What's your favorite beer to drink for just, if you're going to a concert or something, because you just went there at church? And then B, what's your favorite beer, like if you're going for more like taste and not the clown?
Okay, this is a really good question. I'm glad it's a 2-part question. You're going to love this.
I'm ready.
My favorite beer to drink, because I'm from Hicktown, USA, and I grew up riding 4-wheelers and riding horses and shooting guns. My favorite beer to drink, if I'm going to a concert or I'm going riding or whatever I'm doing, is Bud Light.
Bud Light.
I've been drinking Bud Light since I was a teenager, and my brother was buying it for me illegally. All my friends were drinking Natty Light because it was cheap as shit. When my brother was older than me, he had a job. He would buy my beer for me, wouldn't let me pay for it, so they were all drinking Natty Light like cheap asses, and I was drinking Bud Light at like 15, 16 years old because my brother was awesome. So shout out, Ryan. Thank you for that.
He's our biggest supporter. I want to give Ryan a shout out too. He's our biggest
We're gonna have to get him on here sometime. We're gonna have to get him on here.
For sure.
No, yeah, for sure. Though he's loving it though. He really likes this, and it's cool that he's like able to kind of listen in and see what's going on.
Awesome.
But the second part of that question, my favorite beer to drink if I'm going for taste, like if I'm at a restaurant and I'm having like a steak dinner, potato or whatever it is Bud Light. That's all I drink. I don't fucking drink real beer. I never have.
I was so ready.
Yeah, I got you excited. So I used to work at BJ's Brew House when I was in college. I like bus tables and stuff like that, and they actually brew their own beer. So I would go in after work and hang out with them and drink. Well, I'd drink Bud Light at their brew house, and they got super, super pissed. So I eventually transitioned to like their version of Bud Light. But I've always been a light beer dude. I don't really go crazy about the taste of beer. Never have.
Yeah.
So that's that.
Cool,
Sorry to let you down there.
No, it's all right. I'm actually a kind of a beer connoisseur, so maybe sometime we can talk about that too, because I really like it. I mean, not like in like a get drunk kind of way, but you know,
Like the taste of it.
I like the taste, like trying different craft beers and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be cool to do. I know, like, Jess is really into wine, like most chicks are. So she's really good with it. She's done a lot of different wine tasting type things, so she enjoys that. So I mean, I guess if I could be a grown up and drink beer, that'd probably be something we could like do on the weekend. I just haven't grown up yet.
That's all right. That's all right. That's good. Those are some good questions. I like those.
Yeah.
Cool,
yeah,
man.
That was interesting kickoff. Well, let's get going here now.
For sure. So kind of going into our first topic. So we really want to kind of articulate to you guys. You know, as I'm coming off graduation and Corey talk about a few of his things, kind of using momentum in terms of things that you've done in the past or things that you're maybe coming close to completing, or, you know, if you got something, you know, at the end of the month or, you know, on your calendar that you want to do, you know, once you get there, sometimes it's kind of almost like, what do I do now? So our topic today for the hustle part is kind of momentum, and then having that mindset of constantly moving forward. So I don't know, Corey, if you want to start off with this or not, but I think we got some good stuff coming.
Well, I think maybe to kind of lead into it, I think the reason we decided that maybe we could speak on it was just the fact that you just graduated this past week, which we talked about a little bit last week with your thesis work and everything, and we knew it was coming, but it finally came, which is, you know, definitely it's got to be a surreal feeling. It's a really huge accomplishment. So, you know, with that being said, I know that, you know, now that graduation's done and the schoolwork was taking up a big chunk of your time, I was kind of curious because, you know, I know you had to have something lined up to fill your time because you're not going to be able to basically sit around. I know you're constantly moving and constantly progressing. So I was kind of just curious as to, you know, what, maybe not necessarily what is your next business move, but like what kind of things do you have plans lined up, or, you know, is there anything you can kind of enlighten us on there?
Yeah, sure. So, and I will say, because I'm going to kind of play both sides of the fence here, I enjoyed myself this past weekend. You know what I mean? I had some fun, you know, going out with some of my classmates. My girlfriend and family were in town too, so I got, you know, we actually hit up a couple of breweries and stuff, and you know, just spent some time with my classmates too, who were from all over the country. So, you know, we kind of took a step back and realized that we had just done something cool, and, you know, we went out and had fun. So I don't like portraying myself as somebody who never, you know, steps back. And we talked about it before, like picking your head up and seeing where you're at. Yeah, it's important to celebrate accomplishments because it's not always grind. You know, maybe grind, pick your head up, be proud of what you've done, but just because you've gotten there doesn't mean you need to stop. So some of the things I got lined up. So yeah, I just finished that was my 6th year of college, so undergrad at Marietta, and now finished up my graduate degree at OU. So a couple of things I got coming up. I got my PAV business still, so we're doing those the workshop lectures for Ohio coaches, make sure they keep their certification through the Ohio Department of Ed. So I own half that business right now. I'll be transitioning over the next 3 to 4 years of owning the whole thing. So right now we service 400 high schools in the state, and we own about half of the market share in the state of Ohio, as compared to like when we're competing with like the SUMA Health Systems, Ohio Health, those types of things. So you know, looking forward to there, I want to take over 100% of the market share. So there's some things I'm doing with that right now to kind of transition to do that. I'm planning on trying to teach some online courses at a few universities in Ohio. I got stuff just listed down here too. So, and I just actually applied at the Bo Jackson Elite Sports Facility in Hilliard, Ohio. So if I did get that, I might have to come to Columbus a little bit sooner than what Emily wants to. But I'd be the associate director of that whole thing if I was, you know, given the opportunity to take the job, which would be awesome because they'd be doing some really, really great things there with the adolescent kids as far as strength and conditioning, mental development. I'd still be doing healthcare, athletic training services as well. and we'd actually be implementing some of the thesis functional performance tests there too, which would be sweet. So doing that, I'm really going to get back on doing articles and videos on my website, which I kind of got away from towards the end of my my time at OU, just because something had to give at some point, and that was one of the things that unfortunately gave for the time being. And then I mean, not to ramble on too much, but I got the bodybuilding show coming up. I'm doing injury prevention and rehab personal training programming for a couple clients that I have, trying to expand my clientele as well. And then moving forward to getting my CSCS at the end of May, and then hopefully getting the active release technique certification as well. So those are some kind of a short list of things that I got going on, because I don't want to stop, you know what I mean?
What's the last, there's a few different things you mentioned there that I think are really interesting, but what's that last thing you said about the active release certification?
Yeah, so active release technique is basically, it's kind of a combination of manual therapy, so like massage, trigger point release, and then it's like that in addition to taking like a muscle or tissue through range of motion. So like I was actually doing this on Corey G the other day on his tricep. So basically I was finding his trigger points in his tricep, and then I was moving his tricep through range of motion, basically trying to, it's almost like flossing out that those trigger points or those calcium buildups or whatever is in that tissue that's causing pain or irritation. So it's really expensive, but it's a pretty recognized cert, which is great for healthcare professionals and just anybody who's working with athletes of sports, weightlifting, whatever. So
that's awesome. That's cool.
It's super expensive, but most of those things are. So
yeah.
Well, so
yeah, that's a lot of stuff on your plate. It didn't take long to find something to fill up that time with that you just freed yourself from.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of it's been kind of in the making, and we just kind of talked about this off air. Is it was almost a formality in my head that I was graduating. Like I knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of getting through the 2 years. So I never. I was almost more excited to graduate from undergrad because it was 4 years. There was a lot of work going into it. Not that there wasn't an OU, but this is almost, like I said, just a second thought in my head, just a kind of a stepping stone to get where I want to be. I posted something on Twitter the other day when I graduated from Marietta and they finally mailed me my degree. I put it on Instagram and I hashtagged on to the next one, just because that's kind of how I've always been. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's a mindset thing, but I think if you've got a plan, it shouldn't be tough at all, because if you've got the things written down, which I've got the whole notebook full of things that I've been going through the past 6 months of what I want to do after I graduate, then it's, that I'm set up for what I want to do. So like basically me graduating was me getting the green light to start all this other stuff that I want to do.
Yeah, it was really just like step 2 in a process of 10, 20, 30 steps of what you want to accomplish in your life. So it really wasn't anything. I mean, obviously it's an accomplishment and you want to enjoy it and take it in, but at the same time, it's really, it's just a stepping stone.
Exactly.
I think that's probably maybe a big misconception, or I don't want to say misconception, maybe a difference in people that go to college because that's what you're supposed to do and get a degree, just to get a job, as opposed to get a degree to get a career and a life. You go to college and you get the degree and then you get that job and then you coast the rest of your life, whereas the degree really was just, like I said, like a stepping stone for you into a whole world of opportunity that that is out there for you.
Yeah. That's basically what it all is a stepping stone, because if, like, for those people who maybe just go to college because that's what everybody else has done, or what they've been told to do, a lot of times they get to that point of graduation, or if it's not school, like if say they've been working towards a promotion for 5-6 years and they finally get that promotion, that a lot of time it's almost like they're deer in headlights. They don't know what to do, because they had that date on the calendar or that goal at the end of the year, which is awesome. But then if you don't have anything after that, it's almost pointless, because you regress from where you were. Because if you get that promotion, you work so hard and you developed yourself so far to that point, you get there and then it's like well, I don't know what to do, so I'm just going to kind of, like you said, coast, and then if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
I had a good buddy from back home that I went to high school with, and he straight up, I mean, I love the guy. He's a really great dude, and he literally said, he literally told me, he said, well, I went to college out of high school because that's what you do after high school is you go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So he went to college for 4 years, got a degree, didn't even get a job in his career field he went to school for, but he just got a job to start paying off student loans. So, I mean, it's like it's just the ultimate trap right there.
It is, yeah. And that's kind of the way society's pushing people, which sucks because people get so far into debt, doing these 4-year degrees, these 4-year programs, and it's if you're not smart about it, it can really, I mean, it can say you could be paying loans for the rest of your life.
Yeah, there's a million different ways to go about things, and there's some people like Corey Gregory that barely went to community college, and then there's people like yourself that have master's degrees. I went to basically technical school, which is the easiest way probably to explain it. Like I went through, I have a medical degrees, but they're all hospital based and like on the job training. So mine took 4 years, but I didn't have all of those student loans and debt. I mean, mine was all basically out of pocket, very, pay as you go. And I graduated with zero debt, and I'm making the same amount of money that people that went to Ohio State to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But the stuff that you learned, you directly applied to what you're doing now, right?
Yeah. And that's one thing too, is like, depending on which route you go, the route I went, I would literally, like the first week of school, I was on the floor taking x-rays and working with patients as opposed to sitting in the classroom. Yeah. And that's the way I learn, and that's the way I mean, if anyone has ever been in a classroom with me, they'll tell you, like, you see the back of my eyelids more than you see my eyeballs in a classroom. Because if I sit down, I'm asleep. I just can't stay awake. I've been like that my whole life. So for me to be doing on-the-job training and learning was, it worked really well.
Yeah, I think one of the big things it's kind of one of my goals is, with like you said something about Corey and then myself, which I would never compare myself to G, but like people on like my end, like the academia people, I think there's a negative connotation that because a lot of people with masters or doctorates, they're like bookworms because they don't apply the stuff that they've learned in the classroom. Like they can be the smartest people in the world, but they just don't apply it. So that's kind of one of the stigmas I'm trying to change. You know what I mean? Because I had somebody tell me last year here at the high school that they called me a paper pusher, and I think I smiled and nodded my head or whatever, but inside I was like on fire. You know what I mean? Just because that's a stigma with people who have degrees to a certain extent, but like especially like in sports medicine, because that's all we do. We're in books all the time.
Yeah.
So, but that was kind of off topic. So Corey, what as far in terms of like constantly moving forward and using momentum, like I know we've talked about some examples you have. So what's your thoughts on that? Like with your experience?
I just think that, like you said, in terms of always having a plan moving forward, and if you reach your goal and then you don't have anything lined up after that, you kind of stop and say what's next. So, if you have a date on the calendar, I mentioned to you earlier, my date last year on the calendar was May 2nd, 2016. That is when I took my registry for CAT scan. There's multiple different registries, multiple different levels of radiology imaging. And I did X-ray first. I went to MRI second. Well, the third one I got was CAT scan. And I needed to do that before I could start my personal training coursework and my personal training, like the books and the tests and all of that stuff. So the CAT scan was part of that process, because what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to be extremely marketable and go to any hospital I want to work at. So whenever it comes time to drop down to, say, part-time work or something in MRI, CAT scan, and imaging, this will allow me basically the flexibility to go to any facility I want to work. But the reason that this came up actually was because, I knew I had, like, kind of like you said, the test that I took was just a stepping stone. It wasn't really an end goal. So I knew I just had to get out of the way. So I took the CAT scan registry on May 2nd, 2016, and I studied my ass off for it. It wasn't an easy test. It wasn't something I do a lot of. I don't really do CAT scan that often. I usually only do MRI. So I told Jess, I said, when I take this test, like, I'm going to take like a week, because I think it was like a Monday when I took it. I was like, we'll take like a whole week. We'll just hang out, chill, like catch up on Big Bang Theory, go get some dinner, just chill out, whatever. And she's like, okay. She just kind of smiled and grinned the whole time. I'm like she didn't believe me. And I was like, no. So I get home. I get home from taking my CAT scan test, and you get your results immediately. And I passed the test. I got home. I ate lunch, sat on the couch. Like, on the couch, I sat down. I was like, what do you want to do? She's like, I don't know. What do you want to do? I'm like, I think I'm going to order my personal training books. She fucking lost it. So I went in, grabbed the computer, and I ordered all of my personal training, the books and the tests and everything I needed to get started. And I started my personal training course 2 days later, because I couldn't sit still. And I know, like, if I would have taken that week to say, what's next, or where am I going to go next, or what's my plan, and not already had that plan in place, the momentum I had from that success of taking that test and passing it would have gone. And you know how hard it is to gain positive momentum. It's just as equally as easy to lose it. So as soon as you grab the momentum, you have to run with it. You cannot you can't stop for a minute, in my opinion. You can. You got to take it in and you got to enjoy it. But when you get the momentum, you have to run with it and take advantage of it.
Yeah, I agree, dude. I think that's one thing that, kind of the people that we surround ourselves with, I think a lot of us struggle with, is trying to find that balance. Maybe taking a step back and, maybe going out for a few beers, or, just hanging out around the house. But it's important, because if you don't do that, you may damage relationships, or anything along those lines. I mean, it's something that I think we're so hustle work driven that, I mean, I know for a fact, for me, it's something that I have to get better at, especially when, because I've kind of had it easy. Not me and Emily have been doing distance for 3 years. So like physically, we're not really together that often. So like when I'm not working or not training, I'm writing up programming, or I'm trying to write an article, or I'm doing content videos, or you know what I mean. So it's definitely something I have to get better at once me and her together all the time, because I know that I'll have to make more time for her physically. You know what I mean, as far as just spending time with her. So that's been one positive thing about me and her doing distance, which that might be the only positive of me and her doing distance, is I've been able to get a lot more work done. But it's definitely something that I think a lot of people like us need to get better at.
Yeah, one thing, and I actually wrote this down in a sense on my list of goals for 2017 on my personal goals, was, and I've probably mentioned it before, is being more intentional with our time together. And it's one thing to be hanging out together, whether it be going out to dinner, in for dinner, watching TV or a movie, being physically present and being like mentally or emotionally present. If you're hanging out together but you're sitting there staring at your phone and you're not actually paying attention to each other, actually engaged in the conversation, it's one thing. But when you can actually put the phones down and actually be physically present in the moment and engaged in conversations, like, I've noticed a huge difference in the past 4 months from actually focusing on that and being very intentional about it, and like speaking about it and doing it. It's made a huge difference for sure.
Yeah, well, I bet. I mean, yeah. I could talk. I was going to go on with that, but I don't want to get too sidetracked with which we tend to do. But that's some good stuff, dude. I think some of the main takeaway points, guys, is just don't stop. Like we said, take a night, enjoy it, whatever it is, graduation, getting a promotion, passing a test, even hitting a new PR in the weight room or something. If you're trying to get 300 on bench for a long time and you finally get it, don't stop. Don't take a weekend off because you hit it. Keep grinding to get 315. Just use that positive momentum as something that kind of propels you forward, and don't let it make you complacent for being happy with where you're at.
Yeah, and I think too, a big point I kind of want to drive home, and what I would like to make the point is, the point of is almost say, like, whatever your goal is or whatever you're striving to reach at this time, you want to be focused on it and fully engaged in it, but you also need to know in the back of your head what's next, and you need to have that planned. Because if you reach your goal and you don't have that what's next or that next step already in place, and you stop to think about it and you lose the momentum, that's when it takes a long time to get back to rolling.
Yeah, I agree. You gotta have that plan. It's just like having the date on the calendar, but then you gotta have sub dates on the calendar that are kind of like subheadings.
And I mean, like I've said before, as far as like me trying to tone it down and not get too crazy this summer, because we're getting really close on the wedding. It's getting down to crunch time. It's getting kind of stressful, making sure everything's ready and done and all that. But I'm doing things right now behind the scenes, whether it be through social media, whether it be through programming, through advertising. I'm doing things right now that as soon as literally, I'm not saying like I get home on Thursday, on Friday I'm doing this, but I have a bunch of things in motion that I'm working on right now that as soon as I get back from the honeymoon, I'm not going to skip a beat and I'll be ready to take off. I mean, I have like 7 clients right now, and I have systems in place that as soon as I get back from the honeymoon and the wedding, I have plans to double that in the first month, just because I'm literally trying not to right now, because I don't want to take on a bunch of new clientele and a bunch of new programming and say, hey guys, sorry, I'm going to be gone for almost 3 weeks. So it's not really beneficial for me or them to do that. So I'm taking steps and putting systems in place right now that when I get home, I won't have to spend time doing this shit. It'll already be out of the way.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. I just want to highlight one thing that you didn't say it, but the way that your mindset is, and I'm the same way. The difference between knowing that you're doing what you're truly passionate about is you're going to be chomping at the bit to get back to doing your daily stuff after the honeymoon. Even though the honeymoon's obviously going to be great. I mean, it's going to be an awesome time for you and Jess, celebrating your guys' love together and everything. But when you get back, you're not going to be, oh man, like I can't believe, we're not back, wherever you're going on the honeymoon. Like, you're going to be chomping at the bit to get back going, training clients, training at old school, and doing all your other business stuff. Like, a lot of the people, just like being, that your shit's broke by the stuff Gary Vee says about living for the weekends and dreading going back to work on a Monday, or dreading going back to work after a honeymoon. Like, that's huge. I mean, that's how you know you're doing what your passion is.
And I'm in a really unique place right now in my life, and I almost chuckle at it, because some days when I'm running around like crazy and rushing to work, even though I really do enjoy my job, I've said that before, that's not where I want to be though. So I'm almost that like half of me is literally like miserable. This fucking sucks. I hate this. The other half of me is grinning like a motherfucker, because I'm like, dude, this is so exciting that I can see not the light at the end of the tunnel, but I have plans in place to get me out of that mindset and into this whole, like, I mean, part of my driving force, I've said before, is to live a life I don't need a vacation from. I'm literally already planning on what I'm going to do as soon as I get back from vacation this summer.
Dude, you're about to jump off that stepping stone.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. Yeah. Exactly. Boom.
That was cool. Cool, man. So
it's really exciting. I mean, like, literally, there's days where I'm like, man, I fucking hate this. I'm not going to work. I mean, I'm going to work, but like, I fucking hate this. This is miserable, and I'm literally laughing. I'm like, dude, I love this shit.
Yeah. That's cool, man. That's cool. Got any other closing points, or do you want to move on?
No, man. Let's kind of get out of here before I start rambling too much. I think we literally were all over the place. but it was fun. I enjoyed that. So congratulations again to Todd for graduating.
Thanks, man.
And let's get down to something healthy here, because you posted a video on some hip impingement and some exercises the other day, and I've been waiting for a couple of days to ask you about it, because the stuff we talked about last week, I kind of had a little bit of an idea about it. I've worked with it and dealt with it, but the hip stuff, that was all new to me.
Yep.
So I'm kind of want to see if you can kind of explain that a little bit more to us.
Yeah, man. So one of the things that I've come across in the last 4 to 6 years of taking anatomy classes, like learning about pathologies and everything, like at least for me, hips and low back are like extremely challenging and complicating. I mean, I like to try to figure out what's going on, like with my athletes or whatever, but they're tough to diagnose, and a lot of the time with low backs and hips, they can be very debilitating at times too. But the one thing, so I posted about it yesterday, and I've got a couple other videos that I'll throw back up on IG and stuff, like for like mobility techniques and things. But the pathology I was referring to was femoral acetabular impingement. So I looked up the definition of impingement. It's like there's a lot of definitions to go around, but what it said on the medical dictionary is impingement is a degenerative alteration in a joint in which there's excessive friction between tissues, and then that leads to limited range of motion and pain. So kind of jumping off there, the femoral acetabular joint is the articulation between the head of the femur and then the acetabulum, the acetabulum of the pelvis. So and what that is, it's a ball and socket joint, just like the shoulder. I mean, it's very, very free in how it can move. It's got 3 degrees of freedom. So flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, internal and external rotation, and circumduction, which is basically like being able to swing your leg around in a circle, basically. So impingement anatomically can be caused by 3 things. So it can be either a pincer impingement, a cam impingement, or a combination of the 2. So the pincer impingement, so like these are like anatomical impingement issues, which like things that you can't control. So does that make sense, Corey?
Yeah.
So the 2 main types are pincer and cam, like I said. So pincer is an extra portion of bone growth that extends over the acetabulum. It's like where that articulation is actually happening, which can obviously, I mean, it sounds like it's painful. It is extremely painful. There's a lot of things rubbing together when you're, especially with extension and flexion. And then the cam type of impingement is when the femoral head is not round enough in that articulation and it can't rotate smoothly.
Okay.
So those are the 2 big anatomical impingement issues, and then you can even have a combination of those 2 together, which causes a lot of issues.
No, I mean, I'm not really big on surgery, and you know how you feel like surgeons always just want to cut, but those, I mean, are those surgical, or is that, or is what you're going to tell us some type of preventative rehab type stuff to work around it?
So those types of things, a lot of time when it's an anatomical issue, they have to be surgically repaired. So like if you can get it, like some of those extra bony growths shaved off, or you can even get that femoral head shaped better to how that is. Because I mean, those things over time can cause osteoarthritis, regular arthritis. I mean, long term, you have to get a hip replacement. I saw a total hip once, a total hip surgery. It took about 2.5 hours, and it was, I mean, I don't know if the listeners have seen any surgeries. Corey, have you seen surgeries?
Yeah, I've been on a lot of hips.
You've been on a lot of hips?
Yeah.
The way they crank on the leg and stuff, dude, is crazy.
It's like fucking insane.
Yeah, they don't show any mercy for sure. And I think it's the bloodiest joint replacement procedure, I think, I'm pretty sure between the hip and knee.
I mean, I don't doubt it at all.
Yeah, so those are the 3 types of anatomical impingement, and then functional impingement wise is, so in the inside of the hip, and I talk about it in my video, there's the adductor muscle group. It's a kind of an inside of the leg, which a lot of people refer to as the groin. And so what the groin is just a very generic term for that group of muscles on the inside of the leg. And so what those muscles are the, I mean, these probably won't mean too much because it's not, I mean, you don't really need to know all these muscles, but I'm just going to put them out there for general knowledge. The adductor longus, adductor magnus, adductor brevis, the pectineus, and gracilis, those are all the adductor muscle groups. So those are the ones that bring your leg towards the body. Okay, so if those become inflamed, that can cause, like I said, a kind of a functional impingement issue. And then there's also 3 ligaments that kind of stabilize that whole hip joint together, which is the ischiofemoral, pubofemoral, and iliofemoral ligaments. So anytime those lose their elasticity or there's inflammation in the area that causes that space in the hip to decrease, that's how that functional impingement occurs. And I mean, it can be extremely painful and debilitating. As far as I know, I mean, I've never had an X-ray of my hip or anything, but I know based on how I feel, I have a certain type of impingement in my hip. So hopefully it's not one of the anatomical types. But I mean, the pinching feeling that I constantly feel in the inside part of my hip joint, which I do that exercise that I posted yesterday all the time. It hurts, man. Like that's one of the main reasons I don't sumo deadlift. And my sumo deadlift's so bad because it just doesn't feel good to get into that position.
Really?
You know what I mean? So like, and I wide stance squat all the time for low bar, which doesn't really seem to affect me and I don't really know why that is, the difference between those two, because the positions are kind of similar. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I'm sure a lot of people feel. You know what I mean? So, and one of the main reasons I wanted to talk about this is because so many of the people that listen to this and that kind of train with, you know, whether it's a Get Stack program like we do or just, you know, hardcore powerlifters, the majority of elite powerlifters, and even the ones who aren't elite but are still very, very strong, they're all low bar wide stance.
Mm-hmm.
And the majority are sumo, I think. I probably shouldn't say that because I don't know if the majority are sumo.
It's a pretty fair statement.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's shorter range of motion. It's a more efficient pattern, I guess, because you're not moving the bar as far. So getting into trying to say, I wrote some things down here just so I don't miss anything. Because I'm hoping there's a lot of questions if you guys hit me up on social media and stuff, and Corey, stop me if you got anything too. But so when I'm talking about like some mobility techniques or flexibility techniques, it's kind of a two-edged sword. So there's so much tension on the adductor muscle group from what we're doing. Because I mean, our stance is so wide for both the sumo and the wide stance squat. There's so much tension on all of those adductor muscles that if you're not conditioned, like you don't have the muscular endurance or conditioning in that muscle group, or if you load them too quickly before you do, that can cause inflammation and lead to impingement, or you can just have a strain or a tear of those muscles if it gets bad enough. So that's one thing. And on the other side of the leg, you have the adductor muscle group. So in all those positions that I keep referring to in those two lifts, our lower legs, our hips, our ankles, and knees are all externally rotated. So we use so much external rotation, and that's all of the adductor muscles on the outside of our legs and up in our glutes and butt. So, like I said, it's a two-edged sword. So we're getting all that tension on the adductors, so we're putting so much strain on those, and then we're making our external rotators on the outside of our leg work so hard that it causes these muscle imbalances. So, and like the general rule of thumb with a muscle imbalance is stretch what's tight and strengthen what's weak. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm talking about that. So, and I won't talk about the abductors at all today because I just want to talk about the hip impingement. But like, so the movement I had yesterday on IG and Facebook, and I think I put it on Twitter too, all it is it's a stretching technique, but it also, that band that I have around my glute is pulling me forward. So it gives almost a distraction force and kind of pulls that head of the femur anteriorly to kind of loosen up that joint capsule.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So like a lot of time, and PTs use it more than like athletic trainers, and I don't know how much physicians use it at all, but like joint mobs are huge for range of motion. Like a lot of time we just hear about mobility work and stretching, but joint mobs are huge, and you can use any kind of resistance band to use them for whatever joint you're trying to use them on. But they increase the amount of range of motion you can have at each joint just by basically opening up the joints and moving them around by putting tension in different directions there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So the one I had yesterday was great because that hits the anterior part of it. Even hits a little bit of the hip flexors, but it hits all of the adductor muscles, and it really puts stress on that interior part of that hip capsule because it's pulling it forward as you're in that stress position. And then another really, really good one, which may be better than that, is a straight horizontal distraction force. So to try to give you guys a visual, say I'm laying on my back on the ground and I have that, if you guys saw the video, if I have that band tied up to a pole or whatever, and I tie it around my leg, and then gradually try to move backwards from that pole, and that's just pulling. If you guys can kind of visualize it in your head, pulling that femoral head a little bit out of that capsule. So like, and when I'm talking pull it out, it's not like 1 to 2 inches. It's very, very minute degrees. But even just pulling it out of there for a second gives you relief. And like I said, it can increase that range of motion and you don't even have to move. You just hold it there 30, 60 seconds. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
It's almost like a traction. I mean, I don't know how much they do traction anymore. I think they did traction. I think they still do it on like hip replacements and stuff as like a recovery type thing, right?
Yeah, I should have mentioned chiropractors too, because they're huge on that. So I think I said distraction. I've heard it called distraction and traction, both. But yeah, those things are huge. I mean, for ankles, knees, hips, especially shoulders, are a really big one too. So those joint moves, and I need to do some more videos on those. But there's some great stuff on IG about how you can use bands and just things that you have available to you for joint moves that you can do on your own. You don't need somebody pulling on your arm, pulling on your leg. You know what I mean? So, and then the other flexibility, mobility things that I have for the adductor muscle group is like a basic side lunge stretch, the butterfly stretch, the one I showed yesterday, and then I'll throw this other one up back on IG tomorrow so you guys can look at it. It's basically a dynamic lunge stretch, which a guy who came to old school way back when I first came showed us. And it's basically you do a side lunge, and then you just go back and forth for like 12 to 15 reps for a couple sets. And so I think, Corey, you've done this a few times, I think.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, so it really warms up the adductors, and then it's kind of got the second part's got a twist to it. It hits the inside of the hamstrings as well, which is a really, really good one. And I want to definitely make it known it's not a ballistic stretch.
I was just going to ask you that because after the conversation we had a while back, because I've been using that as part of my warm-up ever since he came. Kevin, I think it was Kevin Cornell. Kevin Cornell. He came this past summer and showed us at Old School, and I've been doing it ever since. But then after that conversation we had, I was like, is this ballistic? Is Todd going to yell at me? Like, I was afraid to do it, but it's not.
No. So because I do it too. I really like it because it can help. It helps me the anterior part of my capsule feel a lot better after I do it. But it's not a ballistic stretch because if you guys remember from what I talked about this, right?
Yeah.
They're kind of all blurring together for me. My attention span's like 2 seconds. But so a ballistic stretch is when you take a muscle to its end range of motion and it activates that stretch reflex and pushes you back to where it wants to be.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So and if like I said, I'll post this video again, but Corey, you know what I'm talking about. But the whole movement's controlled. You know what I mean? You're not bouncing around.
Yeah, and you're not going to end range of motion either.
Exactly. So yeah, it's not a ballistic stretch. I call it a dynamic movement.
Okay. Cool. That makes me feel better.
So that's basically a quick rundown on it. I know I kind of went, hopefully not too in depth on the anatomy stuff, but I love anatomy. It's kind of one of the things that I really thrived on at OU, and so I kind of want to give you guys a background on that, and then I hope I can develop a dialogue with some guys on whatever questions for more flexibility techniques, mobility techniques, and things that hopefully can help you guys have you guys feeling better.
Yeah, so let's touch on real quick because you mentioned external rotation, which is huge.
Yeah.
And obviously, you've heard me bitching about this a lot over the last couple weeks. Is like so much external rotation, and I've been doing this close stance squat where I've damn near put my heels together, but I'm so externally rotated that I've been having, and I don't want to say what it is, but basically it's just a lot of soreness in my like piriformis, which is is that like when your abductor muscles?
Yeah, it's a deep external rotator. Yep.
So, and bringing this into perspective now, is this one where I need to stretch the piriformis and strengthen an adductor, an internal rotator, or what are you saying there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think with us it's a little bit different because we're squatting every day. You know what I mean? So like obviously with the wide stance we're externally rotated, but even when we're high barring, I think it was a high bar, right? It wasn't front squat, or was it front
High
squat?
bar, heels touching, pausing, like an idiot.
Yeah. So with us, I think it's a little bit different because we're putting so much stress and we're asking so much of that muscle group of external rotators is the hip. I almost think you should kind of maybe do the opposite of it and maybe just try not pointing your toe straight, because that's not for everybody anatomically. But stretching it is great. Don't overstretch, because Corey G did that and kind of hurt himself a little bit a few weeks back. But there's so many good Piriformis stretches that, I mean, they're all very similar kind of, but just based on your body position, that they hit that muscle dead on. And then another really, actually I want to do a video on this next week, is a Piriformis release. So, which is basically, and you don't need another person to do this. It may not be as effective without somebody else. If you have a lacrosse ball or something, you can kind of find that spot and kind of roll on it, or even just like sit on it for a minute or two. But this Piriformis release is awesome. Like I use it on. I mean, you see me use it on guys at the gym all the time, where basically they just lay on their stomach. I take my elbow, dig in into their butt, their glute, wherever their pain is across that Piriformis muscle. Once I find that, I'll just take their ankle and I'll internally and externally rotate their leg. And the Piriformis, like I said, is an external rotator, so it's going to be rotating and contracting, shortening, and lengthening as I'm taking them through the internal rotation. So if I just have my elbow there and I'm pushing down, and I mean I put a good amount of force there, and as that muscle is shortening and lengthening with my elbow going across it, it's extremely painful, but maybe not that day, but the next day and the days after that release, because having that tension on it as it's going through that range of motion, that right there is an active release technique like we talked about before. And it takes that tension out of the muscle and can make it feel way better.
Yeah, let's do that tomorrow.
Okay.
I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we talked about doing it a while back, but we never did. Yeah, let's definitely do that, because Dr. Kelly has shown me a few things for that on a roller and with my leg up and different things, and they're killer. But it's almost like where I puss out and don't do it because it hurts. But if I had someone else doing it for me.
Yeah, that's one nice thing about having somebody else do it, is it kind of forces you. Well,
if it hurts me and I stop, if it hurts me, you're not gonna stop because you don't give a shit. So.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna reference our buddies' DBAB shirts. But yeah, dude. Yeah.
All right, man. Yeah, that was definitely cool. I know. Hopefully, I'm sure people will have some good takeaways from this. I don't want to say I was shocked, but I was really excited at how many guys reached out to you, and even dudes that reached out to me that were really thankful for the stuff we talked about last week, in terms of with the things we talked about with the knees and the ankles and such. So hopefully there's something here for somebody to take something away, and if not, even spark a few light bulbs for something for them to look into.
Yeah, and I didn't forget about it. I still got to get those functional tests up on IG and stuff. I think last week when I told Corey I was going to get to the gym early, I got like 2 hours of sleep and I was a little bit late, so we didn't get
about that too.
We didn't get to film those, but we'll get those up, guys, so you can actually get a visual and see what they look like, and then hopefully the main goal of this, guys, is I'm not trying to ramble on about anatomy and stuff. I want you guys to be able to apply this stuff into the gym to get you moving functionally, to get you feeling better. I mean, the main, if I can assist you, or Corey can assist you in getting from moving with pain to moving pain-free, that's our main goal with these health topics.
Word.
Word. All right, man. So guys, like we said, we're really excited about everything, all the feedback we've been getting. Please hit us up with comments and ratings on iTunes, SoundCloud. Let us know what you think. It doesn't have to be good. If you don't like something we're doing, let us know. This is all about you guys. I mean, we're not here to talk about all of things that we've done or things that we want to do. It's a lot of times we want to use our experiences to maybe give you guys some sticking points, but this is all for you guys. So let us know what you're thinking on Twitter, IG, whatever it is. You know our handles. I mean, we're all over the place. We're constantly posting on everything, multiple times a day. So get at us with your questions, comments, and concerns. Cool.
Last thing I want to say, guys, the only direction you can coast is downhill. So if you want to climb the mountain of success, it takes energy. So you have to keep moving. Don't stop. Keep pushing. Hustle.
Nice. All right, peace, guys.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling.